Good evening. Welcome to this edition of Northeast Diary. Here we bring you the latest developments from India's unexplored Northeast region. Mahashivratri, or the great night of Lord Shiva, has been celebrated today. In the Northeast as well, people observe this festival with much fanfare and gaiety. We will go over to Assam to learn about how people are celebrating Mahashivratri. Friends, as we know, Northeast is a hotbed of different cultures, traditions and customs. We will also go over to Mizoram to learn how the biggest festival of the state, Chapchar Kut, is celebrated. It is the onset of spring, and we do know that nature has blessed immense bounty to the region. All kinds of rare flowers will bloom in the coming days. We will talk about how orchids have become a source of income for the people of Meghalaya. Mahashivratri has been celebrated today. Our Dibrugarh correspondent Pranab Kumar Nath tells us how this festival has been celebrated in Assam.
Shiva temples of Dibrugarh and Tinsukia are well prepared for the auspicious Mahashivratri festival being celebrated today. Mahashivratri festival is being celebrated today with great pomp and show in the 200-year-old Shiva Mandir located on the station road of Dibrugarh. As told to us by the temple committee officials, Bhole Baba has been decorated with flowers today. The puja was started from 5 o'clock in the morning by the Mandir Pujari, Sri Ambikanand Pandey, following the general COVID protocol and maintaining of social distancing and sanitization. Today, a musical chanting of Namo Shivaya Mahamantra will be done from 7:30 p.m. by Sri Mangalmay Sundarkand Satsang Samiti, a renowned religious institution of Dibrugarh. Speaking to Akashvani, the Mandir official said, due to COVID pandemic situation, maximum program will be avoided and single-day program has been planned. In Tinsukia district, the premier tourist destination, Shivadham, is also observing the Mahashivratri festival in a befitting manner. Similarly, other small and big temples of Dibrugarh and Tinsukia are also celebrating the Mahashivratri festival in a befitting manner. Mahashivratri, the festival of immense power and devotion to Lord Shiva, is celebrated every year on Chaturdashi of the Krishna Paksh of Falgun month, and this year, this date falls on 11th March, that is today. According to mythological beliefs, Lord Shiva and Mother Parvati were married on this day. With Pranab Kumar Nath from Akashvani Dibrugarh, this is Sharmila Goswami for Northeast Diary.
Northeast India is a paradise unexplored. The region is regarded as one of the best destinations for nature lovers, trackers and wildlife enthusiasts. Festivals of the northeastern states also symbolize the harmony among human and nature. Today in this episode we will hear about Chapchar Kut, which is the most important and biggest festival of Mizoram, from our Aizawl correspondent.
The spring festival, Chapchar Kut, is celebrated on the first Friday of March every year with much pomp and gaiety. In general, people from all walks of life participate in the festival held across the state. Annual celebration of Chapchar Kut wears an extravaganza with the holding of many sub-events like Chapchar Kut Run, art and photo exhibition, flower show, food court and exhibition of artifacts. As part of the festivity, cultural groups hold folk concerts, perform Mizo songs and dances like bamboo dance, tero. During the festival, many people from foreign countries and neighboring states also visit Mizoram to pulsate with the fervor. This time, the Art and Culture Department organized the festival last Friday on virtual mode, and it was transmitted live through cable TV channels and Doordarshan so that people from all across the state can enjoy the festivity. olden days, village heads were regarded as Kutpa or father of the festival. Nowadays, this is organized by the State Department of Art and Culture, and the Chief Minister is regarded as the Kutpa. This year, Chief Minister Zoramthanga, who graced the virtual program as father of the festival, said that Chapchar Kut gives an opportunity to promote Mizo traditions and strengthen brotherhood. He also greeted all people and wished the festival brings happiness and love for all the people. For Northeast Diary, this is Irene from Aizawl.
Orchids are generally considered as a symbol of love, rare beauty, strength and wealth. The northeastern region of the country is well endowed with very good climatic conditions which allow different types of orchids to flourish. Orchids are a major source of income in many countries. Our Shillong correspondent has more insights on this.
Meghalaya is endowed with a rich and luxuriant orchid flora of nearly 352 species, belonging to 98 genera, representing 27.08% of the country's orchid flora. For several centuries, orchids have been known for their attractive flowers and their medicinal properties. The majority of the orchids are epiphytes, however, lithophytes, terrestrial and saprophytes are also encountered. Orchids are a charismatic group and have been called the pandas of the plant world. They are a prominent focus of plant conservation, with the vision of conserving the orchids and highlighting the economic utilization of floriculture and orchids. The Orchid Society of India and Botanical Survey of India, Kolkata, with Northeastern Hill University organized a national conference and orchid show here at Shillong. The conference highlighted the importance of medicinally important orchids grown across the country. Professor Ashok Bhatnagar, President of the Orchid Society of India, shared his views about the national conference.
The conference is about orchids, which are the most beautiful flowers on earth. They are not only beautiful, but they also have tremendous economic importance. They are of importance in international trade for their ornamental value. And these flowers and these plants are also very important for various other uses, particularly medicine, for edible purposes, nutraceutical, for immunity enhancing drugs, and so on. One is to promote conservation of these flowers, because these flowers have been commercially overexploited and many of the orchids have vanished from their wilderness or now in very scarce populations. So we need to conserve these orchids in nature, as well as we need to conserve these in our seed banks and in other ex situ facilities. So we need to conserve these. The other is that we should also use these in a sustainable manner for economic purposes. For example, we should compete in the world trade for export of ornamental orchids. And we are making some inroads, but for medicinal purposes we want to lay emphasis, because many orchids have been used in our country for medicinal purposes since Vedic times.
The event also witnessed the participation of botany scholars from the Department of Punjab University in creating awareness about the growing of different types of orchids with different values. Renowned orchid scientists were facilitated and awarded for their enormous work in the field of orchid cultivation and hybrid growing. This is Rustam for Northeast Diary from AIR News, Shillong.
When we look at the overall development index of the Northeast region of India, we see that the region is still lagging behind many states of the country. Presently, the central government's relentless focus, emphasis and programs have given birth to many healthcare facilities in the Northeast. The Atal Bihari Regional Cancer Center, RCC, in Agartala is one such initiative. The institute is treating cancer patients not only from Tripura and other parts of the Northeast region, but also patients coming from neighboring Bangladesh. The Regional Cancer Center recently has shown outstanding performance by conducting a complicated thyroid cancer surgery successfully. A report from our Agartala correspondent, Reena.
The Regional Cancer Center in Agartala was upgraded with a modernized OT facility and a new equipment in September 2019, with the hope that the upgraded version will bring a new era in the healthcare sector, particularly in cancer treatment in the state and in the region at large. As believed so, the hospital with its upgraded facilities is treating patients in full swing. The center is giving treatment for all kinds of cancer diseases. Recently, the center successfully conducted a complicated thyroid cancer surgery on a 20-year-old girl, adding a new feature to the successcape of the hospital. Cancer surgeon of the hospital, Dr. Ashish Kumar Gupta, who led the surgery team, said the operation lasted nearly 5 hours due to its complexity and sensitive location of cancer.
एक 20 इयर्स की लड़की को यहाँ पे ऑपरेट किया है। उनका पहले थायराइड कैंसर का प्रॉब्लम था और उनका एक बार पहले ऑपरेशन हो चुका है और ऑपरेशन के बाद में उनका डिजीज वापस आया था और उनका डिजीज गले के अंदर कई जगह पे उनके ट्यूमर डिपॉजिट्स थे जिनको हमने क्लियर किया है और उसमें करीब करीब हमको 5 आवर्स का समय लगा है और उनके कुछ ट्यूमर डिपॉजिट्स जो थे वो ब्रेन की ब्लड सप्लाई के पास में भी चिपके हुए थे। उनको रिमूव करने में हमें कुछ समय एक्स्ट्रा लगा बट अल्टीमेटली हम उसको पूरी तरह से रिमूव कर पाए और अभी पेशेंट बिल्कुल स्टेबल कंडीशन में है।
Dr. Ashish, hearing about the current facilities and vision of the hospital, said,
मैं अपने पेशेंट्स को यही बोलना चाहूंगा कि कैंसर इज नॉट अ डेथ सेंटेंस और आज के समय में कैंसर का ट्रीटमेंट पूरी तरह से पॉसिबल है और कैंसर का ट्रीटमेंट आपके स्टेट में रीनल कैंसर सेंटर अगरतला में पूरी तरह से पॉसिबल है, तो आप लोग यहाँ पे ट्रीटमेंट फैसिलिटीज अवेल कर सकते हैं।
The upgraded 100-bedded regional cancer center in Agartala has new facilities and treatment available in 7 categories such as radiation oncology, surgical oncology, medical oncology, palliative care, laboratory services, imaging services, and preventive oncology. For Northeast Diary, this is Reena Nongmaitham from Agartala.
In India, there are a number of tribes across the country and the government has been implementing many welfare schemes and programs just to improve the income through various means. One such initiative is Pradhan Mantri Van Dhan Yojana, which was launched in 2018 by the Ministry of Tribal Affairs and Tribal Cooperative Marketing Development Federation of India with an intention to improve the tribal income through value addition of tribal products. The scheme has become a changing factor for the lives of many tribal women in Manipur. A report from our Imphal correspondent, J.J. Thokcham.
Pradhan Mantri Bandhan Vikas Yojana, which aims to transform the economy of tribal people, was launched in Manipur in the year 2019. Under the scheme, the state government has been focusing on collection, processing and value addition of non-timber forest products. Manipur has 77 Bandhan Vikas Kendras comprising 1,995 self-help groups and around 25,000 beneficiaries. Registration of another 100 Kendras are under process and TriFed has agreed to do funding for making storage and construction of hut bazaars for the product produced by these self-help groups. These women are engaging in the food processing including making jam and candy from the collected gooseberries, amla juice, foraging whale leaves and cinnamon from the forest. They are given training on how value could be added to the minor forest products along with the training on infrastructure support, access to timely credit. These finished products are handed over to the marketing outlets handled by the Department of Forest. Since September 2019, the Bandhan Kendras of Manipur have reported sales of these products worth around 50 lakhs. In Kamjong district of Manipur, women self-help groups working under the Bandhan Vikas Yojana are making exemplary success. They produce different products under the scheme and it has become their popular occupation. The Pradhan Mantri Bandhan Vikas Yojana has emerged as a beacon of change and it has impacted the tribal ecosystem as never seen before in Manipur. It has provided employment to tribal women and improved their financial conditions. J.J. Thokcham from Imphal for AIR News Northeast Diary.
The demand for tea produced in Arunachal Pradesh in the international market is growing and Tea Board India through various workshops and training programs is trying to involve more and more local people in this cash crop business, thus making them self-sustainable and also fulfilling the growing demand. A report from our Itanagar correspondent Rakesh Dole.
The Himalayan state of Arunachal Pradesh is known as the land of potential. The foothill regions of the state are ideal for growing tea. Basically, the tea-producing area are on the hill slopes of Siang Basin and plain lands along Assam-Arunachal boundary. Arup Jyoti Das, Assistant Director, Tea Board India, Itanagar Regional Office, informed that Arunachal Pradesh produces about 12 to 14 million kg tea every year, and efforts are underway to increase its production. He said variety of specialty tea are grown and produced in the state, which have attained good demand in the global market.
अब ऐसे अरुणाचल प्रदेश में तो लोअर एरिया से आपका जो बॉर्डरिंग एरिया असम का बॉर्डर एरिया से है उससे आपका हिल स्लोप एरिया में भी वो नस्ल का टी अभी ग्रो हो रहा है. तो मेनली हम लोग नॉर्दर्न पार्ट ऑफ अरुणाचल एंड साउदर्न पार्ट ऑफ अरुणाचल 2 पार्ट में ये कर सकते हैं. अभी नॉर्दर्न पार्ट में आपका सियांग, पापुमपारे, सियांग डिस्ट्रिक्ट, अपर सियांग डिस्ट्रिक्ट, लोअर सुबनसिरी डिस्ट्रिक्ट, आपका वेस्ट सियांग डिस्ट्रिक्ट, और आपका साउदर्न पार्ट में आपका सांगलांग, तिराप, लोअर दिबांग वैली, नामसाई, लुहित, ये सब एरिया में अभी टी ग्रो हो रहा है. तो ये अरुणाचल का टी तो बहुत नाम कर रहा है. लास्ट ईयर और उससे पहले साल के भी आपका वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड भी बना हुआ है. ये दोनीपोलो टी स्टेट वैसे तो आपका वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड क्या है, तो 1 लाख रुपीज पर केजी रेट मिला है ऑक्शन में. अरुणाचल स्पेशलिटी टी तो बहुत बन रहा है. आपका व्हाइट टी भी बनता है, पर्पल टी, व्हाइट टी, उलूंग टी, येलो टी, ग्रीन टी, ऑर्थोडॉक्स टी.
Mr. Das informed that the Golden Needle tea produced by the Doni Polo Tea Factory of Arunachal Pradesh has been sold at a whopping price of rupees 75,000 per kg in the auction market, while its price has reached to rupees 1 lakh per kg in the private market. He also informed that Tea Board India is taking up schemes to help the small tea growers in the state to boost cultivation skill and set up mini factories. For Northeast Diary, this is Rakesh Dole, Air News, Itanagar.
The tourism sector contributes vastly to Sikkim's economy. Following the COVID-19 pandemic, the sector is fast regaining momentum. The state government has adopted an integrated outlook to promote tourism through avenues such as village tourism, pilgrimage, adventure, organic farming, and film shooting. Resumption of flight operations at Sikkim's only airport at Pakyong has also boosted prospects for the sector. Additional Chief Secretary of Sikkim's Tourism and Civil Aviation Department, Dr. K. Jayakumar, speaks about the sector's revival and roadmap.
The tourism potential of the state of Sikkim is indeed incredible. It is well known that the tourism has been a major sector for the economic growth of the Himalayan state of Sikkim. As the COVID-19 pandemic has been brought under control, tourism in Sikkim is gradually getting better, with impressive growth rate in tourist footfalls. To talk more on tourism scenario in the state of Sikkim today, we have Additional Chief Secretary, Tourism and Civil Aviation Departments, Government of Sikkim, Dr. K. Jayakumar. Sir, you are warm welcome to the special broadcast of Northeast Diary program, Personality of the Week. Sir, along with the rest of the world, our own state of Sikkim, one of the most popular all-season travel and tourism destination, had to bear huge loss in the tourism sector. So would you please tell us how has the pandemic impacted Sikkim's tourism sector?
The Sikkim tourism did get the setback that almost all the states and the entire world had experienced. Yeah. Tourism has been one of the worst affected sectors, in the sectors of the economy. But in the state of Sikkim, there was a lot of dialogue and discussions with the stakeholders who put in a very concerted effort, and the kind of the tremendous onboarding experience, where, we exposed and made them aware of the standard operating procedures, and very detailed capacity building exercise took place in equipping and creating awareness on the preparatory process, the way in which, they had to prepare themselves to revive tourism. And after a lot of these discussions, Sikkim was one of the first among the northeastern states, in fact, to reopen tourism from October the 10th. And another thing that we did, which was widely appreciated by the stakeholders, is the fact that, we introduced what is called a travel card, which ensured that every traveler tourist who entered the state of Sikkim had to pre-register. When the COVID was still widely prevalent, and there were a lot of precautionary measures being enforced, and the entire state machinery was geared up to kind of ensure that the spread of this pandemic is restricted. Under these circumstances, we have about 5-6 stakeholder associations, and all of them, they took their members and they held intensive workshops. Standard operating procedure was developed, how to reopen tourism, and they were all explained the entire process of how to sanitize various areas and how to ensure that the safe distancing and all this hand hygiene, and so all this was done, and we took a very bold decision from October 10th, and after this introduction of travel cards, one of the confidence building measures, and all tourism related services were automated. That is another initiative which we took. So now the digital operations gave a lot of comfort to the tourists booking for various travel destinations, and they pre-booked their accommodations. So they arrived safely, and they have this travel card with them. So the police and the health officials at Rangpo and the checkpost areas, they were also very confident since precautionary measures were taken. There was a little amount of confidence, that was there in the community. So they allowed the tourists to come. And thereafter, of course, it was the story unraveled itself, and now we have a footfall from October 10th till now. We have in excess of 4 lakh tourists.
That is
and there was a surge in tourists. In fact, comparing these months, the number of tourists who visit Sikkim to the corresponding last year's period.
So we can say it's a good beginning after COVID-19 pandemic.
Absolutely. In fact, we could see that there was a eagerness of the tourists to go out and then come to places like Sikkim, which they considered as very safe, because of the efforts they are. And then it's an ecology, open environment, greenery, and so on. And one of the other feather in the cap was again the resumption of operations at Pakyang Airport. Now, you would see that almost the flights are running full. There's increasing flow of tourists, and homestays are a popular hit.
Sir, how has the sector been evolving from the pandemic since opening up gradually in October 2020? Will you draw lights on some of the initiatives and the incentives initiated by the state government to support our tourism stakeholders who are closely associated with this sector and they are dependent on tourism to earn their livelihood?
The revival did raise a lot of hopes in the population which are dependent on the tourism industry. And as you know, in Sikkim, almost 40% of the families are connected to earn their livelihood directly or indirectly from the tourism industry. This being the case, one spurt we saw was, apart from the usual travel destination that people visit to Canggu, Nathulla, and then to North Sikkim like Lachin, Lachung and all that, the community did play a very significant role.
Yeah, the role of community in Sikkim is extraordinary. You must have felt,
they did come forward in a very, even in places like Lachin and Lachung.
The cooperation, their support.
Where the panchayat, we have got a very unique system of panchayat there. We have got the Zumsa system and we have got the headmen and the community deciding all matters in a Gram Sabha. They were initially a little reluctant, but then opened out subsequently, knowing that, a lot of livelihoods did depend upon tourism. But one of the trends that we are also seeing is, increasingly tourists and travelers are going to rural areas. So rural tourism holds a lot of potential, and this is one thing that the state government is increasingly being made aware of. And in fact, the Chief Minister in a recent convention we had a cherry blossom festival in Jemiti Garden.
Yes, sir.
So he did make an announcement that he is making a mega homestay project announcement. An initiative has already been announced. In fact, it would also expose the tourists and the travelers. It gives them a new experience.
Sir, the government is trying to adopt a holistic approach of promoting Sikkim as a film destination to focus on sustainable tourism through homestay and farm-based tourism. What are the plans to achieve this, and how you are going to correlate this tourism, filmmaking and agriculture sector?
You would be aware that, we had a film festival last year, and this year again we are continuing the tradition. And the film personalities from outside the state of Sikkim, when they come, there is a lot of exchange of knowledge, how one has to expose the traditions and culture in the form of digital media, because these days social media is becoming increasingly important. We are also training people who are now doing the blogging, people who act as co-hosts to the homestays. In fact, homestays don't receive the orders, the booking. We have group of people who are called the co-hosts, who perform the receiving bookings and pass it on to the homestays. And so we are building capacity in these people. Services are rendered in a really professional way. Now about the homestays, we are now introducing this Atmanirbhar concept in a different way. We are making people familiar with the need to do everything themselves, do it yourself kind of a concept. Traditional homestay is being popularized, and then we are making people aware of how they can create experiences for the tourists which they were memorable, and then they would take them back as memories. So we are also combining adventure tourism. We have designed machines which are now mechanized agro farming, because youth will not be attracted to farming when they consider it and perceive it to be laborious. So what we are trying to do is introduce, in fact, I am being a mechanical engineer. I have designed some machines myself, and then we have patented them. We are now launching it in the Okre Congress. And these machines are ideally typically suited for the slopey areas, small farms, the backyard gardens, and this can be kept in common facility centers. They can be kept in self-help groups and common facility centers Sabhagrar and Panchayat Bhavan, Nehru Yuva Kendra. It will improve productivity also. And the tourists who are visiting also get exposed to the concept of how one can actually make day-to-day living much more productive.
Besides
using
productivity, it will also help to conduct research work for students also.
We are now in the department, we are making special efforts to reach out to the community and then talk to them and then interact with them, and we will hold more intensive dialogues and see what can be done to make destinations more attractive.
What are the challenges in furthering the scope of tourism in Sikkim, from infrastructure to identifying new destinations?
When you talk about tourism infrastructure, they immediately think about buildings and infrastructures. It is not the concrete structures or the kind of facilities that go with it. It's also gardens and how you nurture them. How do you provide ethnic food to the people? How do you create experiences for the tourists?
We have come to the end. Thank you for being with us.
In the heritage segment today, we take you to the state of Nagaland to have an understanding of the customs of the Angami Naga, one of the major tribes in Nagaland.
Dear listeners, if any of you have visited Northeast, particularly the state of Nagaland, you will find traditional gate or modern gate in each village. Do you know that traditional gate plays an important significance among the Naga tribes, especially the Angami Nagas, one of the major tribes in Nagaland? This evening, let me share about the little known facts of Angami traditional gate, also known as Karu. Angami traditional gate or Karu plays a very important function in the socio-economic life of Tenimie Angami. In the early days, Karu is not only used for protection of the village, but it is connected with many important ginas in Angami social and traditional custom. No village where the name could exist without a traditional gate. Let's hear it from Medoselu Keretsa, a village elder from Kohima village, as he narrates on the significance of Angami traditional gate.
Karu gives the greatest security to the village population, as the whole village is bounded with strong fencing and spikes. There is a main entrance where the traditional gate is erected. Every night, Karu is closed inside to ensure that no intruder break open after all the residents have returned home from works. Any expert can work on it and carve out following pictures or images. A. Enemy head. B. A warrior carrying a beheaded head. C. Sun. D. Moon. E. Star. F. Women breast. G. Big piece of pork meat. H. Paddy stalk with air. I. Cockerel. All these figures have religious and social significance, but it is prohibited to describe them elaborately as per tradition. In our concept, we believe the sun gives wisdom during the day. The moon and the stars do the same at night. Women breast signifies the increase of populations. The piece of pork meat signifies prosperity. Paddy stalk also signifies prosperity. Cockerel, we use it to purify the soul. During those days, we take head hunting as a very important activity in our life. So, enemy head and a warrior carrying a beheaded head means we win over our enemy and kill our enemy.
Well, dear listeners, the all-age tradition gates may not be followed in this modern era of Naga tradition. However, it may be seen that in many of the villages in Nagaland, modern welcome gates are erected which are prominently features of any Naga villages. This is Asunyo for Northeast Diary from AIR News, Kohima.
With that, we have come to the end of this edition of Northeast Diary. Do join us next week to hear more stories from this enchanting part of India. Bye-bye.